On Monday, the Cubs hit, but they didn't pitch. On Tuesday and Wednesday, they pitched, but they couldn't hit. It's the story of the 2024 Chicago Cubs.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode is presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the Cubs, I would say, climbed back into the wild card race entering this week, but it was still a big hill to climb, all things considered, and they haven't helped themselves at all this week following what is now a 3-game sweep to the Guardians, as the Cubs lost 6-1 on Wednesday and are now 59-63. Cubs didn't really muster much of a fight, neither the second or the third game of this series, after roaring back from 8-3 to tie it in the opener. And Sam, we knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, but even despite the White Sox series where they really had to work for two dubs, they had some momentum. And not only do they not salvage the series and maybe just get one coming back to Wrigley, but they lose all 3 games.
Monday set the tone for the series, and then the bats were asleep Tuesday and Wednesday. And when we talk about, we've used the phrase a lot this year. The Cubs are an unlikable team, right? This is a great example of it. Sometimes unlikable teams are not necessarily awful teams. It's the teams that like to tease you. Nobody likes to be teased. If you're going to go down. And this team, it just seems like every time they have a little sliver of momentum, and I agree with you. I think we downplayed it a little bit because, we didn't want to totally get ourselves back into it. This team was 3 games out of the wild card, and their next 18 games after this are against Toronto, Detroit, Miami, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Pittsburgh.
They were in it.
They were really, really in it. And technically, mathematically, if they were to get some help and even enter this stretch at like 4.5 out, you go 13-5, you give yourself a fighting chance, but they don't deserve it, right? They do whatever they can to kind of lure you in and then crush you. It kind of reminds me of June when they had those 2 tough games against the White Sox, and then after that they played really, really bad after. And what else can we say about these games? The bats were silent tonight.
Right.
There wasn't much to talk about. Jameson Taillon has not pitched well, very predictably, since the trade deadline. I feel very strongly that this team's probably going to need one of each position. They're going to need a starter. They're going to need a closer. They're going to need a bat in the offseason. Pretty much like they did, because you just can't go into this year and go,
make 3 additions.
Last year we had Taillon, Imanaga, and Steele, so we'll be fine. Taillon's an average starter. That's what he is. And, I thought the Cubs just had really weird swings tonight. I mean, they were up 3-0 in the count. Bellinger gets a 3-0 green light, and he just has a 2-strike swing to a fly ball to left field. Like Swanson, 3-1 swing right down the middle. He was late. It was just very passive, very tentative against Alex Cobb and Matthew Boyd yesterday. Just, the Jed's going to look at the last couple months of this season, and he's probably going to come out and say, yeah, well, the offense was better. It's still not close to where it needs to be consistently on a night in, night out basis.
Yeah, and we're going to, our lead for Friday's episode, I think, is going to be, this next stretch coming up.
Yeah.
But really, what is the best way to frame the rest of this year? Because, number one is, okay, so what can the Cubs still accomplish these last 6 weeks of the season? Because there is still baseball left to be played. Who are some guys to watch? And really, they need to win this during this next stretch. like we say that they're not that far away. Well, if that's true against a soft schedule, they better eat.
Yeah, it's
like I know they've been tugging on our emotions and it's a roller coaster, but this next 18, they better eat. It is soft. It's really soft. So I know that it's a frustrating bunch. I like that word the most, frustrating. But they will need to, you know, I don't know about prove themselves if that's the right term, but they will need to win some of these games. You would think they're going to do that, but I don't know. It's hard to get a grasp on these last 6 weeks. I know it's 3 games after a really nice stretch since the 4th of July, but I didn't expect a sweep. And now, after the series conclusion, I can look back at that Monday game, right? And it did end up, having effects the next 2 days, and that's too bad, because they were right back in it. You have a team in your division that's on an absolute landslide in the Pirates. They're out. The Mets had lost the first game to the A's. The Giants and Braves were battling each other, kind of knocking each other out, so to speak. So, there was some meat on the table this week. We said it was getting interesting, and just when it gets interesting, you don't win a game.
Yeah.
So it's very frustrating.
Yeah, and there's some cruel irony in that loss on Monday that Imanaga was on the mound, because he's been kind of the guy that's pitched in most of the Cubs wins all year. And, I have to mention it, Matt, just because we have to be responsible journalists.
Yeah, what is it?
Wednesday night, Julian Merriweather came in a 3-run game in a 3-run game in the 9th inning, which is the correct move. That's right. A low leverage spot. But the fact that he threw a second inning in a tie game versus 3-4-5, and 2 days later, basically Counsell's admitting that he's a low leverage guy by pitching him in a 3-run game. Counsell then defended his decision by saying he pitched well, and then he comes out today. He's not even close to where he's supposed to be. He's a low leverage guy right now, and it takes time. Remember, that's how he was in April and May of last year, and then he was able to figure it out. But I just think tonight really put an exclamation point on how absurd.
Yeah, it was silly.
It was just silly is the right word. It was a silly decision, and Counsell knows it.
He was low leverage after the disaster that one Friday against St. Louis.
100%.
Well, I don't understand what happened.
And Tyson Miller apparently is still a low leverage reliever.
He pitched tonight.
He had a 3-run deficit. Just very odd, but and
Merriweather got touched up too.
It
wasn't like he gave up a couple singles.
Well, I don't think he would have got out of that inning if he was facing like a varsity high school team. They were all over him.
All over him.
September 8th, the Bears host the Titans.
Yeah.
So,
are you ready for some football?
Some football. A Monday night party.
Yeah, well, I think they're 4.5 favorites.
Yeah, and I might take it on FanDuel. So
and they're at home. They need to win that opener.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams looked great last weekend. They got plenty of playmakers, including not 1, not 2, but 3 receivers, which, by the way, Packers are looking for 1. That's different times. The defense is returning. They're a good group. I think a game, here's a reward if you're with us this episode. I think in like November, because October and November, man, that's going to be eerie. The diehards are going to roll with us.
Yeah,
maybe we shouldn't do this.
I'll just be thinking about Halloween.
But in February, we did a show like it was June. And I think in November, we should just do a Bears episode.
Well, we might have to get permission for that.
Okay. Hey, here's a question for you.
Well, can I counter with one?
Yeah.
This isn't a question that's coming. Nice to see David Bodie get an AB tonight.
He is still on the team, yes.
Yes, I don't think he's gotten an at-bat since like Dwight D. Eisenhower gave his military industrial complex speech when he was finished. And then, of course, President Kennedy took over after that.
That's a great reference.
I think that was like the late 50s when he gave that speech. Great speech, by the way, one of the greats.
Right. Here's my question for you.
FDR was also a great public speaker. Of course, President John F. Kennedy probably at the top of the list. Go ahead.
Cubs.
What is Craig Counsell's role when umpires make bad calls on pitches?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. I think his role you can't argue every call. I think his role is Seiya Suzuki. Suzuki is the guy. He's got to come out publicly. He's got to go before games and go, "Hey, man, 27, our right fielder, our most talented guy. He's just getting crushed this year. So can you really just lock in? And just say, like, this is what I would do. I would say, if it was Alfonso Marquez by the plate, I'd say, hey, look, I think he's got something with the way he takes pitches. Just really lock in on the ball. Try to ignore that because it's really hurting his ABs. He's probably should be OPSing in the high 8s, mid 8s, and it's the low 8s, and it's really confusing him. Can you just lock in? And then when they mess up, you got to go, that's what I'm talking about. Right there. That's exactly it. You know what I mean? You got to work them a little bit. That's part of the gig. And Seiya's not going to do it. That's just not how the type of player that he is. And so, you got to defend him. Everybody else, it's random. He's the one where it feels like it's just really victimized his season.
And I understand because Counsell's on the record. He talked about this. I think actually Ian Happ talked about it. Craig Counsell believes he's more valuable in the dugout than in the clubhouse. And that's alluding to a possible ejection.
Yeah.
But if it happens this often, you have to at least think at some point he would exit the dugout. But
well, and you don't also have to get tossed every time to do it. You just got to, when you hand over the lineup card, you do this all the time. I mean, when I coach basketball, I'd say, hey,
there's ways to slide it in.
Yeah, this guy's gonna, he's gonna tug on my jersey all the time, or
yes,
there's certain ways you could just do it, and maybe he's doing that, but it sure doesn't look like it because it's almost like they go out of their way with him.
Off day on Thursday, followed by a 6-game homestand that is separated by an off day again on Monday. 3 with the Blue Jays this weekend and 3 with the Tigers next week. So we'll see if the Cubs can respond beginning on Friday. Coming up later in the show, we have a little bit of a personal segment here on the show. A Cubs for a Cure event this weekend. It actually starts tomorrow on the radio side and then extends to Wrigley this weekend. I'm going to get into that. And then we also have an update here on pitching prospect Cade Horton, Sam. A couple more notes, including what the Cubs thought about last September with him. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The experience of searching for and then buying tickets on Game Time is simple. Matt, I got to tell you, if the Cubs were able to win 2 out of 3, I was thinking about doing like a quick surprise Game Time, surprising you and your dad this weekend, but I'm not doing it.
Wow.
Because the team isn't good. The experience of searching for and then buying tickets on Game Time, simple. Just say that. Plus, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Cubs play the Blue Jays at 1:20 p.m. Central Friday, and you can hear every pitch of the Cubs hometown broadcast on SiriusXM by searching Cubs on the SXM app. And you're going to need to do that either on SiriusXM or maybe the Odyssey app, MLB app, good old AM radio, because the Cubs are exclusively on Apple TV Plus on Friday. And actually, with that being said, Apple has great visuals.
Yeah.
And you could flip on the home team audio alongside the video.
Right.
So never mind.
No, you're right. You could listen to, I know exactly what you're saying. You're right. My sigh was inappropriate. I could listen to Hughes the whole time.
You could play with your settings, and credit to Apple for allowing that.
No, you're right.
The Athletic's Patrick Mooney reported on Tuesday that Cade Horton is dealing with the same shoulder injury he suffered back in May, which means he did have a setback, and Cubs GM Carter Hawkins confirmed just that, as the Cubs GM is on the road trip this week back in his old stomping grounds there in Cleveland. And the other thing that Mooney reported was a couple more things. One is that Horton might pitch in the Arizona Fall League to get some more innings before the 2024 calendar year is up. I think that'd be a great idea.
Great idea.
And it would actually maybe give us some baseball to watch in the October and November, which is rare. But I agree with the Cubs about, having a cautious posture with this. This is your top prospect, top 15 in baseball, number 2 pitching prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah.
He finished last year in Double-A after pitching across 3 levels in the same year. And then to begin this year, he dominated at Double-A and then made those 5 starts to Triple-A before the injury. I think we've seen mostly good to great things from this kid so far. And I could understand their cautious approach. And I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel if he pitches in the AFL.
Yeah, unfortunately, those rankings you just mentioned were coming into the year. They've really plummeted because, of the injury and of his inactivity. But yeah, I don't want Cade to turn into one of those, he's been hurt and this. Like, the Cubs can really use. They need. Let's phrase it like this: one of Brown, Wicks, or Horton needs to be a reliable starter for this team, or their pitching factory, their pitching lab completely failed. They need at least a starter. Like, we can't keep doing these tweeners. What's Wisniewski, right? What's Assad? Ben Brown bounced from starter reliever. They need somebody to come in, be able to take the ball every 5th day and dominate. That's what it is. So yeah, I agree. If he could pitch in the fall, I think that'd make everybody feel better about where that's headed. Because right now the biggest disappointment and the biggest story of the season so far is just the ineptitude for the big league club. But unfortunately, a close second has just been the lack of development or injuries with those 3 names at the pitchers. Now, there's plenty of positive stories. I think PCA has been a positive. Matt Shaw's struggling in AAA, but he'll turn around. He's been a positive. I think the Paredes trade ultimately is going to look like a positive. By the way, Christopher Morel, everyone freaked out over those 2 home runs. He has 1 hit since. I think, Imanaga is a huge positive. Like, there's positives. Bush, but there's you'd like to see Horton dominate the Arizona Fall League for a couple of games just to feel better heading into spring.
And I agree with you on Ben Brown, especially because I know even myself, I get caught. I think he's enticing as a bullpen piece, but he had no hit stuff as a starter.
Yep.
And so he needs to begin 25 as a starter.
If he's healthy, yeah.
Right, and compete for a spot and be in there. But speaking of the bullpen, in this same article, Patrick Mooney said the Cubs did consider the idea of bringing up Horton last September to help them out of the pen in the playoff push.
Wow.
That would have been fun. But it would have been a lot on him, I feel, which might have been appropriate pressure, though.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight now, it's easy to say, well, he couldn't have been any worse, but they didn't know that at the time.
Right.
Because, if you recall, every lead they had late September was given away. But, we talked about that. We talked about that this year.
Right.
We compared Brown and Horton.
It would have been fun.
We compared Brown and Horton to Burns and Woodruff in the 2018 campaign for Craig Counsell's Brewers. That would have been something really fun. But,
I compared Horton last year to David Price with the Rays.
Yeah, right. So it hasn't worked out like a lot of things haven't worked out this season. And,
how you doing over there?
I'm doing all right.
Okay, just wanted to check in.
These type of games don't bother me because
Right.
they tell you it's the team telling you that they don't really aren't ready to produce or play playoff baseball. The Monday night game drives me up a wall because there were so many things that could have happened differently in that game. These two games are just like,
Right.
oh yeah, we're not that good at all. So let's just
Right.
make some nacho chips, melt some cheese on there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have a little bit of actually I have like this unique, I bought the wrong drink. It's like this like grape juice thing that's actually pretty good, but I think it's got way too much sugar in it. So I'm going to drink that, but be careful with it because of the sugar aspect.
And my only addition to that would be the good teams will have games like Wednesday, but they won't have games like Monday.
Right.
They won't.
Yeah.
The truly great teams. So that's my point there.
Yeah, and this isn't
like the Sox. The Yankees lost to the Sox Monday. Okay.
Right. Yeah, and they're actually losing right now.
Right, but have they blown 25 games?
Well, no, they have a closer.
Right.
Clay Holmes is a legit closer, and
who's a free agent this winter.
Yeah, and they're flanked with two two of the all-time greatest players.
Should the Cubs get Clay Holmes this winter?
Well, that'd be a huge upgrade if they did. Yeah, I mean,
he should be a prime target, him and Jansen.
He's a heavy sinker baller. He's not your classic closer. He doesn't get tons of strikeouts, but his 97, 98 mile an hour sinker is so devastating that it's a lot of weak contact into the ground. Before we hit to the last segment, let's look up Clay Holmes' numbers on this campaign.
He's doing real solid. I mean, if you listen to WFAN or Locked On Yankees, I'm sure they've got on him, but he's had a nice year.
Yeah, he's got 25 saves. He's got an ERA of 2.81. He's thrown 48 innings, just 51 strikeouts, 49 hits. His whip's a little higher than you'd like for a reliever.
But good amount of contact. Wow.
Well, yeah, no, he gives up. He's a bat to ball guy with weak ground balls. His ground ball rate's out of this world. Okay. But on this team, he might as well be Mariano Rivera.
Right, correct.
I say give him 4 years, 80 M's.
Now you're joking, right?
No, I'm not.
$20 million for a closer?
Well, what did Hader just get? 5 for 90 or 6 for 90?
I'll look into that.
No, I think it's like you're right. Hader got 6 for 90, so 15, so 4 for 60.
But in all seriousness, I think he'd be a good target.
Anybody that
him and Kenley Jansen are the good ones out of this crop this winter.
Anybody that you have any sort of confidence of being a really good reliever. I mean, let's look at Clay Holmes. I mean, he's been 2021 with the Yankees. He had a 1.61 in 25 games, 2.54 in 22, 2.86 in 23, 2.81 in 24. He's been really good for a while.
He's proven. Absolutely. All right. Well, there's a target for it. Does that excite you? It sounds like it in your voice.
Well, it would excite me if it happened, and we have a lot to go before the winter meetings come. You know what I mean? We still got like 40 baseball games left to cover. Then we got
like 4 months away.
Then we got the postseason. Then we get the eerie months of like October, November, where we're talking about like Ian Happ's like favorite ice cream or something.
Non-tender candidates.
Yeah, like non-tender candidates, and how Justin Steele, what his routine is before games or something. And then once the winter meetings hit, we pick it up a little bit.
We'll pick it up a lot at that stage. Coming up next, we're going to preview the Cubs for a Cure event as they team up with Stand Up for Cancer this week. Pretty close to me. We're going to get into that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Pick more or less and 2 or more player stats, then watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season's well underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry. Prize Picks is really simple to play, with your entries taking less than 60 seconds to submit, turning $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps of your screen. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 by using code LOCKEDONMLB. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Today's episode is also brought to you by our new partners over at Liquid IV, because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV, an indulgent hydration. It's easy and convenient to tear, pour, and enjoy after a long night, a day of traveling, or a tough workout. Blast off with the iconic summer flavor of Popsicle Firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors, 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. All right, last segment of the show here. Beginning Thursday, this is the Wednesday for Thursday episode, depending on whenever and wherever you are listening. The Cubs are teaming up with Stand Up to Cancer for a 3-day fundraising effort dedicated to cancer research. The 3 days will be highlighted with Saturday's game at Wrigley Field, where the first ever local Stand Up to Cancer play card moment will happen during the game. Stand Up to Cancer has partnered with leagues and organizations for a long time, but usually these are during what I would call more of a marquee events like a World Series or an All-Star game.
Yeah.
And the Cubs are hosting the first ever local game. Here's a Saturday in August, and the Cubs are teaming up with them. The Cubs doing this, I think, is very special for them to be the first ones. President Crane Kenny, president of business operations, Crane Kenny, has been the point guard on this as well as others, which I will get more into later this segment. But my dad and I will be at the game Saturday. Actually, my dad, my wife, and I will be there. And it will be very special for us as my mom died of cancer in 2018. It's going to be great to have that card in hand in the greatest ballpark on the planet with my dad by my side, my wife, Kira. And Sam, thank you for always, supporting me and my dad. And, I always remember you being there for all that stuff. And, I just want to say publicly, like Sam was the only non-family member to text me this past Mother's Day. Just things like that. And I'm excited for Saturday. I think it's going to be a really nice event. I'm really glad the Cubs are doing this. And, just a lot. I think it'll be very emotional.
Yeah. I think it's great that the Cubs are doing it. I'm glad that you're going to be there. I'm glad that your dad and Kara are going to be there.
Yeah.
The worst word in the English language is cancer. It just is. It just is. And it's, we're all trying to fight it. We're all trying to figure it out. And I mean, I just feel like everybody listening, everybody watching the show, everybody, if you've lived your life and you haven't known somebody or had any association of anyone that's had it, then you're living one of the most blessed lives that you'll ever live. Right. It's so prevalent. And so I'm glad the Cubs are doing something for it. I'm excited to see it. Because I've always thought it's so cool and powerful. I remember at the All-Star games year. I don't remember the World Series. But glad you're going to be there. That's Saturday, you said?
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of auctions and activities to donate before the game Saturday. I'm going to try to do some of those as well. There's a rumor that Craig Counsell is going to be on a dunk tank, so we'll see how much money I could put up to try to put that man in some water.
Well, maybe he'll show, maybe
it'll be a good photo opportunity, though. It'd be really cool to meet him.
Well, maybe if he gets into like an ice cold tank of water, show a little emotion. You know what I mean?
The other major part of this actually starts at 10 a.m. Central Thursday on 670 The Score. Afternoon host Danny Parkins has been a major piece to this as well after losing his dad and his brother recently to cancer. And Danny will be hosting a 24-hour radiothon beginning at 10 a.m. Central Thursday. I exchanged, Sam, a couple emails with Danny this week, which is
wow,
insane because Google his name right now. And
yeah, he's got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on with him, but he was very gracious to respond to me. He was on my first podcast, Eavesdrop, back in the day. So I'm grateful that he responded, and just wanted to pass along that anyone could donate anytime at cubsforacure.com. And if you donate during the radiothon, the donation will be doubled. So cubsforacure.com, and maybe I could plan to report back on what happened on Saturday for a Monday episode.
Awesome. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see it. And hopefully they could, you could have some entertainment when they're there.
Maybe they'll sweep this weekend.
Yeah, right. Well, and maybe hey, listen, I've been back in the gym on Saturdays playing ball. I'm due to get real hot on Saturday myself.
What's the over-under points? 17.5, something like that?
Yeah, well, we're playing. Yeah, if it was like a regular game, it'd be something like that. I'm starting to figure it out again. My cardio's coming back, and I'm starting to shoot the lights out. So
that's good.
Yeah, but it's great stuff. Let's. We have a show to do tomorrow. Never mind.
Yes, we do. We'll be back on Friday. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. What can the Cubs do with these last 6 weeks of the year? He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.